October 1869, a boy was born in Porbandar who would change the world forever. But his story is far more surprising than most know. It is a journey from being a timid child to being the father of the nation. In this video, let us discover Mahatma Gandhi's incredible transformation up to his return to India, and let us honor the legacy of him being a pioneer of truth, non-violence, and self-reliance. Chapter 1: Early Life and Formative Years. Mahatma Gandhi, or Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, was born on October 2nd, 1869, in Porbandar in the princely state of Kathiawar in Gujarat. His father was Karamchand Gandhi, and he was the Diwan or Minister of the state. Mohandas was the youngest son of all. His mother, Putlibai, was the fourth wife of Karamchand Gandhi. At 13 years of age, Mahatma Gandhi married Kasturba Makanji in 1882. They had five children together. At 18 years of age, he faced caste objections for going abroad, but he went to London in 1888 to study law, despite the objections. In 1889, Gandhi encountered the Theosophical Society, where he met two Theosophist brothers. They introduced him to Sir Edwin Arnold's English translation of Bhagavad Gita, which he was greatly influenced by. During this time, Gandhi was also introduced to Annie Besant. Now, Theosophical Society was an organizational body of theosophy, which was an esoteric religious movement. It was founded by Helena Blavatsky and Henry Steele Olcott in the New York City in 1875. As far as India is concerned, Annie Besant started it in India in 1893. Besides studying the law, Gandhi also passed the University of London matriculation examination. However, he did not participate in the newly established British Committee of the Indian National Congress. Later, he decided to settle at Rajkot in Gujarat to make a modest living. In 1891, he returned to India as a barrister and started his legal career in Bombay. After he was added to the Bar Council in 10th June 1891. But he soon realized the inability to practice Indian law and also cross examine witnesses psychologically. So he returns to Porbandar. Chapter 2: South Africa and the Genesis of Satyagraha. He was offered a job by an Indian business firm in South Africa. He accepted the civil suit work offer in Natal, involving a case with his client Dada Abdullah. He reached Durban on 24th of May 1893. When he reached South Africa, he witnessed the ugly face of white racism and humiliation and contempt to which Asians who had gone to South Africa as laborers were subjected. The condition of Indians in South Africa. Most of the Indian population comprised of the indentured and freed laborers who were working in the sugar plantations and a few merchants with the clerks and assistants. The Indians were subjected to all kinds of racial discrimination in their day to day life. Every Indian in South Africa was contemptuously a coolie, meaning a laborer. Hence, an Indian doctor was even a coolie doctor, and Gandhi himself the coolie barrister. The Indians could not walk on the footpath or be out without a permit at night. Further, they were prohibited from traveling in the first or second class of the railway compartments. They were not even permitted to enter the hotels exclusively reserved for Europeans. In Transvaal, Indians were asked to reside in areas which were highly unhygienic and had no proper arrangements for either light, water supply, or drainage. Moreover, the ex indentured laborers had to pay a poll tax of about £3. On May 26, 1893, Gandhi faced the first instance of racial discrimination. That was in the court Durban. The magistrate asked Gandhi to remove his turban, but Gandhiji denied it and left the court. On 31st May 1893, shivering through the night in Pietermaritzburg station, a leader who would change the world was born. Gandhi made the momentous decision to fight the racial discrimination against Indians and others. While traveling to Pretoria, a white man objected to Gandhi's presence in a first class carriage. He demanded that Gandhi moved to the van compartment at the end of the train. Even though he had a first class ticket, he was told to do so, so Gandhi refused. As a result, he was thrown off at the station of Pietermaritzburg along with his luggage. This incident changed the course of his life. He took up the fight against racial oppression. His active nonviolence started from that date. Before Gandhi, Indians accepted racial discrimination as a way of life. They believed that the discrimination was due to their perceived lack of westernization or civilization. Many Indians did not have the courage to ask for their rights. But Gandhi did. Being the son of Diwan of the Indian state, he had never experienced such racial insults in India. Similarly, he never faced any racial discrimination during his stay in London for 3 years. Hence, when he encountered racial discrimination in South Africa, he felt uncomfortable and thus decided to fight against this injustice. Moreover, being educated and the first of a westernized Indian in South Africa, Gandhi felt that it was justified in asserting certain rights, from demanding first class train tickets to hotel rooms. But the denial of rights to Gandhi and the British educated barrister in South Africa clearly showed that the real cause was the white rulers' assumption of racial superiority. By June 1894, Gandhi's contract had concluded and he was set to return to India. However, at a farewell party, he discovered that the Natal Legislative Assembly was considering a bill. It was a bill to remove Indians' voting rights. Then, with the request of the Indian community, Gandhi decided to stay and help this cause. Consequently, he postponed his return to India by a month. He wrote several petitions to the legislature and the British government, which was signed by hundreds of Indians. Despite this, he failed to prevent the passage of the Disfranchisement Bill or the Franchise Amendment Bill. However, he succeeded in drawing the attention of the public and the press, both in Natal and India, followed by England. But Gandhi felt the need for a permanent organization to look after the interest of Indians, which is why in 1894 he founded the Natal Indian Congress. Period of transformation. Gandhi in 1896 returned to India for 6 months. This was to bring his wife and two children back to Natal. During this second period in South Africa, his mode of living underwent a sea of change. He began reducing his wants and his expenses. He became his own washerman, ironed his clothes, and learned to cut his own hair. Not satisfied with this help, he even volunteered for 2 hours a day as a compounder in a charitable hospital. Years later, the Boer War broke out in 1899. Now, the term Boer is an African word which means farmer. In total, there were two wars which were fought between the British Empire and the independent republics of Boer. These were the Orange Free State and the Southern African Republic. This war was fought from 1880 to 1902. Gandhi wished to support the Britishers in the Boer War in a hope that it would improve the conditions of Indians. Thus, in 1899, he established the Indian Ambulance Corps, which was a unit of 1,100 volunteers serving for less than 2 months. But Gandhi sympathized with the Boers and expressed great admiration for the leaders and for the heroism of their women. He justified his action in organizing an ambulance corps, arguing that Indians who claimed rights as members of the British Empire were obliged to contribute to the war effort. Later, Gandhi was awarded with the title of Kesari Hind for his work in the Boer War by the British. In the later years, in 1901 to 1902, Gandhi extensively visited India and travelled around it. He attended the Calcutta session of Indian National Congress in 1901 and returned to South Africa in 1902, where he stayed continuously for 12 years fighting against racial discrimination. The genesis of Satyagraha. In 1904, Mahatma Gandhi founded the Phoenix settlement in Durban. It was a community living where Gandhi, along with his band of associates, lived there with utmost simplicity and led a community life. The importance of this settlement was later known when all the inhabitants became the primary participants of Gandhi's Satyagraha. He also established the Tolstoy farm in 1910 as a communal living and training centers for the Satyagrahis. Mahatma Gandhi deeply believed in the sense of justice and fair play of British until 1906. During the same period, Bengal was divided in 1905. The partition of Bengal led to the Swadeshi movement, which was the first mass movement organized as a collective action in the Indian independence movement. This had an influence on the ideals of Mahatma Gandhi. His nationalist campaigns later were deeply influenced by the Swadeshi movement, which emerged in the reaction to the partition. This is where he adopted his core principles of self sufficiency and boycotting foreign goods to achieve the dream of Swaraj. From 1894 to 1906, he focused on moderate methods like petitions and memorials to address issues faced by the South African Indians. He attempted to unite different sections of Indians and provide their demands wide publicity. This is why he founded the Natal Indian Congress in 1894 and also started a weekly journal called the Indian Opinion in 1903. This newspaper aimed to fight against racial discrimination and advocate for the civil rights of Indians, especially the indentured laborers. The newspaper was published in English, Gujarati, Hindi, and Tamil. It was a key tool for satyagraha and communal living, helping to unite the Indian community and expose the colonial injustices. This also served as a critical mass communication organ for the Natal Indian Congress and was vital for mobilization and raising international awareness for the struggles of Indians and their rights. By 1906, Gandhi found that the British audience was not listening to his appeals. Thus, Satyagraha became his last resort to help his fellow countrymen with the problems. He used this novel method of fighting oppression for the first time in 1906. Thus, the political activities of Gandhi in South Africa can be broadly divided into two phases. The moderate phase, which is from 1894 to 1906, and the passive resistance phase, which began from 1906 to 1914. His second phase of struggle in South Africa involved the path of satyagraha, or passive resistance, or civil disobedience to fight for the problems. Now let us look at Gandhi's satyagraha against oppression in South Africa. The Transvaal government in 1906 created an ordinance requiring Indian citizens to carry their permits and get themselves registered with fingerprints. This also meant that at any time Indians could be asked to produce their registration certificate. Moreover, the police officers were also allowed to enter the house of Indians and check their papers. In response, Gandhiji for the first time organized a satyagraha on 11 September 1906. The Indian community pledged to defy the ordinance and accepting all consequences of the resistance. Thus, the Satyagraha was born, a new method of redressing wrongs and fighting oppression without hatred and violence. Thus, the Passive Resistance Association was formed by Gandhi to conduct campaigns against such oppressive ordinance. Despite the strong opposition by the Indians, the Transvaal government ultimately passed the Asiatic Registration Bill. However, the agitation continued, and in January 1908, Gandhi was ordered to leave Transvaal. When he refused, he was arrested and sentenced to 2 months' imprisonment for disobeying the pass laws. This was Gandhi's first of the four prison terms in South Africa. The other three were in Volkrust in 1908, in Pretoria 1909, and again Volkrust in 1913. The authorities of Transvaal used deceit to make these defiant Satyagrahis register. He was released on 30th January after making an agreement with General Jan Smuts, who was secretary for the colonies. He assured Gandhi that the registration law would be repealed if Indians registered voluntarily. Well, as expected, he did not keep his promise, and on August 16, 1908, the Indians, under the leadership of Gandhi, carried out a large scale pass burning campaign by publicly burning their registration certificates to express his discontent and opposition. Gandhiji believed that family life was taking away from his full potential, and as a public advocate, thus he took the vow of Brahmacharya in 1906. Meanwhile, the Transvaal Immigration Act was enacted, placing restrictions on the Indians entering the Transvaal region from other provinces. The Indians defied this law by crossing over from one province to the other and refusing to produce licenses. Many of these Indians were jailed. Gandhi went to England as a member of the Indian delegation in June 1909. This was to talk to the authorities, but it did not receive much. On his voyage back to South Africa, Gandhi wrote his book Hind Swaraj or Indian Home Rule. There, he wrote about his increasing discontent with the West, the power of nonviolence, and the vision of self rule. Yet another legislation was imposed against the ex indentured Indians. They had to pay a poll tax of £3. Further, in 1913, a South African Supreme Court ruling invalidated most Indian marriages by recognizing only Christian marriages as legally valid. This meant that Hindu, Muslim, and Parsi marriages were illegal, and the children born out of it illegitimate. This judicial decision was a major act of institutional discrimination and a significant part of the wider system of oppression targeting the Indian community in Southern Africa. The Indians treated this treatment as an insult to their honor of themselves and the women, and many women were drawn into the movement because of this dignity. This Sial ruling provoked immense outrage and was a major catalyst for Mahatma Gandhi's Satyagraha campaign in the South Africa. The invalidation of marriages, particularly the humiliation of Indian women, galvanized the Indian community into a powerful protest movement. Thus, in response, Mahatma Gandhi launched the Volkrust Satyagraha. This time, the movement was widened. It was widened to include the abolishing discriminatory pass laws, the Registration of Marriages Act, and the £3 poll tax imposed on all the ex indentured Indians. Women, including Kasturba Gandhi, played a prominent role, with many being sent to prison. Gandhi himself was put behind bars. Eventually, through a series of negotiations, an agreement by the South African government was made, conceding to the major Indian demands. relating to the poll tax, the registration certificates, and the marriages solemnized according to the Indian rites. And they promised to treat the issue of Indian immigration in a sympathetic manner. Now, this agreement involved negotiations between Mahatma Gandhi, Lord Hardinge, C.F. Andrews, and General Smuts. The culmination of this negotiation was in the Gandhi Smuts Agreement. Here, the South African government finally accepted all major demands and passed the Indian Relief Act of 1914, abolishing all the discriminatory laws. According to the Indian Relief Act, the principle of voluntary registration was accepted. The term Asiatic was removed from the immigration laws. The poll tax of £3 on the non indentured laborers were abolished, and the marriages solemnized according to the Indian rites were legitimized. Having accomplished this mission, Gandhi sailed back to India from Cape Town on July 19th, 1914, and he arrived in Mumbai on January 9th, 1915, being greeted by a large cheering crowd at Apollo Bandar. The Gandhian experience and his evolution in South Africa. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who left South Africa in 1914, was very different from the youth who had arrived at Durban 21 years earlier. The challenges and difficulties he faced in South Africa shaped and molded him significantly. Thus, South Africa was the making of the Mahatma. Gandhi's struggle and experience in South Africa against the racial discrimination helped evolve a novel Satyagraha technique which was based on the principles of truth and nonviolence. His struggle in South Africa also realized the necessity and possibility of unity, more so the Hindu Muslim unity, which was important during the post Gandhian era in the independence of India. During this period, he also realized the immense capacity of people to fight, and his struggle in South Africa made Gandhi the leader of Indian people and not of any region or any religious community. He realized that Indians had to unite despite belonging to different religions and classes. And he also realized that at times leaders have to take decisions which were unpopular, even with their supporters. Thus, in this way, he evolved his own style of leadership and politics, and the new techniques of struggle, even despite the opposition of the contending political currents, made Gandhi the true leader. Now, Leo Tolstoy had a great influence on Mahatma Gandhi. In 1893, Gandhi read The Kingdom of God is Within You by Leo Tolstoy. And then in 1910, he sent a copy of his biography by Joseph Doak and a copy of Hind Swaraj to Leo Tolstoy. He also founded Tolstoy Farm in 1910 to prepare satyagrahis. This was also a precursor to the Satyagraha ashram that was established by Mahatma Gandhi in India in 1915. Now, guys, we have reached to the end of the video, and if you're still watching, drop down a comment below where you're from and how did you like this video so far. So, when we talk about the tenets of Satyagraha, it was largely inspired by the elements of Indian tradition and the Christianity of turning the other cheek. And like I already said, he was influenced by the philosophy of Tolstoy, which said that evil could be best countered by nonviolent resistance. So, his basic tenets were classified that a satyagrahi should not submit to anything which is considered as wrong. He should always be truthful, nonviolent, and fearless. Then, a satyagrahi works on the principles of withdrawal, of both cooperation and boycott. Then, the methods of satyagraha included things like non payment of taxes, declining of honors, and declining any positions of authority. Then a satyagrahi should also be ready to accept suffering in the path of following satyagraha. And now, even while carrying out the struggle against the wrongdoer, a satyagrahi should have no ill feeling or hatred. Lastly, a true satyagrahi should never bow down before any evil, no matter what the consequence. And only a brave and strong could practice satyagraha. It was not meant for someone who is weak or coward. Even violence was preferred to cowardice. Though thought was never to be separated from practice, in other words, ends could never justify the means. So that's it for this video. In the next part, we'll be covering Gandhi's return to India, his complete movement in India to his assassination in 1948. Please drop a like and subscribe our channel as it keeps us motivated. Making such videos takes a lot of time. Let's aim to reach 100 likes in this video.